All right, man. So today on Rip and Go, we got NYC basketball royalty. From the court to the sidelines to in the gym, developing players. Still holds a single game assist record at Niagara University after 50 years has passed, and has assisted countless young people in getting their games, lives, and careers on the right track. We sitting here with Jackie Knowles today. Knowles, how you doing today, boss?
Truthfully, can't complain. Just happy to know that I'm here with some wonderful, wonderful young men who I'm watching. It's their turn to make impact within community. That was always been a part of my life, growing up in the in-check community.
Yes, sir. Speaking of your community, where were you born and raised, boss?
When I came out the womb, okay, I was very fortunate to grow up on 17th Street, 8th Avenue, observing some of the best times of my life while being in elementary school. It's an era that at that time created what we called the heroin addicts, the dope fiends and everything else, and just trying to work through that. Lived in the building with the hustlers and everything else. 277 West Side 17th Street between 8th and St. Nick.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you would move around throughout your youth, right, and migrate from that area to another area, correct?
There's a young man a few years ago that got murdered. They trying to say, or I guess they're saying, it's about the DDPs, Dominicans don't play. Mm-hmm. On that block, Belgrade Avenue, 183rd.
Right.
Moving out of Harlem at the age of 13 to the 7th grade. Started out at Wadley from kindergarten to 6th. I was there, finding my way through middle school. And then eventually, by the time the middle school era was over, I was moving to 181st and T-Bout, one block, going west from Webster Avenue, and that's where my legacy started.
Yes, sir. What would you say in your era were the differences between Harlem and the Bronx?
Harlem was the apple of New York City. When you told folks that you live in Harlem, that was it. That was like the Mecca of New York City, within the borough of Brooklyn. But now there was no such thing as Washington Heights. It was strictly the west side, and you had the east side. I grew up on the west side, and it had its own reputation, the definition of who you are and how you're going to be looked at growing up in a real tough community. When you're growing up at that time, living with the heroin addicts, going in the building where I lived, not knowing who's in the hallways waiting to maybe take advantage of you, I felt at home. Cried when it was time for me to move out of my 17th Street, moving to the Bronx. Tears ran down my face. I did not want to leave. So I moved to the Bronx. For the first month, 2 months, I was getting on the 29 bus down 3rd Avenue, over the Willis Avenue Bridge, and I was back in my block every day, checking on my grandmother, who lived 275, and like anything else, right there, loving that experience and never will forget it because it's the start of my life.
Most definitely. So where were the contrasts between the two boroughs? We know Harlem was the epicenter.
Well, I'm not knowing at the time that I'm going to a community that's going to now be dominated by the Italians. I'm learning now about Junior Mafia not having any idea that they're surrounding the school that I was going to called 45. Now they call it the Giordano School, right there on Laurel and 188th, 189th. And now I'm the minority. In Harlem, I was the majority. We had the few Puerto Ricans and, no such thing as Dominican until the 80s. We won't go there right now. But my first and closest friend was Puerto Rican, David McCarter. That's when I started learning Spanish when I was in elementary school. And then when I moved to the Bronx, the Italians was basically that part of the community that we were surrounded by. After school, you couldn't even walk to certain parts of the community, Arthur Avenue. There would be the black dog, no niggas and spics allowed. And I remember chased for the first time in my life, smacked in my face. I'm getting ready to turn around and fight the Italian boy. And then 5 more chased me. At that time, they had a reputation for pulling out pipes and piping the brothers, okay? And stomping you. They used to wear the orange, construction boots. They'd have the Tams on their head. You know, the movie when I watched Bronx Tale, that's us. Okay, so like anything else, that's how real it was. And what happened one day, my 8th grade year, okay, 9th grade year, is when we now had to stop going outside to go to the White Castle on Fordham Road to have lunch, get the burgers for like 8 cents at the time. And now you're dealing with, in the sub shop across the street, we see the tuna fish, everyday heroes. And Time Boy got shot in the mouth, and then the school was surrounded by them at the end of the day. And the brother Box, we called him, Clinton was his real name, government, drove the number 3 bus when the Italian bus driver got out and left the bus supervised, and he jumped on the bus at 187th North Avenue and drove it right to Clinton, 181st Street, where the Clinton Avenue gang, well organized by, you know, my peer who grew up in Harlem with me, Gary Martin, was like now leading the charge. And just when I started learning and understanding the seriousness of what this is about, because once I got smacked in my face by the Italian boy, my schoolmate turned around and said, I heard what happened. He was Italian. His name was Neil Perello. That's my guy. Okay, same age as me. He said, I know you're not from here. If you want to come with me after school, you know, I'll take you down to the park. You can point him out. And I said, no, next time that happens, I'm just going to go to Harlem where I'm from, and then we'll deal with it from there. I never ever got approached. When I started working on my basketball skills in the schoolyard in the wintertime, never ever they walked by. And I guess I found out later on that he was junior on their way, if you want to call it the black hand. I'm dealing with it without even recognizing, because that was their community. Now it's all about segregation, and here we dealing with now the Hispanic population and black live on that side of town, but it was strictly Italian. And then Italians are still there if you go through Arthur Avenue.
Yes.
That's deep
It
in the
used to
trenches.
be more spread out, is
More
what you're
spread
saying.
out. Now it's, you know, they deep in the trenches. They control it still.
And this time frame we were talking about is the mid 60s, early 60s.
Yes.
Got you. And what kind of household did you grow up in, if you don't mind me asking? 2 parents?
I was mother, father. Didn't really have the true communication, connect with pops. Mom's was my bright hope. My big brother was my father, the way I felt, 6 years older than me, without age being discussed, like anything else. He's who I followed, looked up to, and he was a true mentor, which a lot of people are not fortunate to grow up with their big brothers or big sisters who they can say they've learned a lot about life through their experiences. So I wanted to be like him. Then he went into the music business, graduated from Lincoln University, then got his master's degree. Then he worked at Bronx Community College with the College Discovery Program. And like anything else, started making that music with him and Gil Scott Heron, who they met at Lincoln University together, and I used to follow them.
Beautiful. When were you introduced to the game, and by who, to the game of basketball?
Really, I was baseball first, growing up in Harlem. As a Jewish man, my grandmother did domestic work for him. My mother was doing domestic work for President NYU, and my grandmother would tell Mr. Seymour Heyman about her grandsons, and he was taking us, coming right to 117th Street, picking us up, taking us up to Van Cortlandt Park, where we played with grown white men. I started getting my craft on with baseball, and that would help me develop my skill towards basketball once I moved to the Bronx. And now I was kind of comfortable starting to really get into it more. But growing up, it was baseball. I just knew I was on my way to play in the major leagues, because the shortstop, I had the arm and I knew how to play and I was fast. And for a strange reason, to the Bronx, I'm on my junior high school team for 1 year. Got cut my 9th grade year after making it. I moved up there and I just kept working at it, and I kind of was liking it. And then I would be out there in the schoolyard every day after school, across the street from 45 to junior high school. And now, eyes closed, 20-degree temperature, 30-degree temperature, I'm out there working on my ball skills. And now working at the Salvation Army after school, my craft started developing, which now would take me into deal with Clinton High School because the young ladies was a distraction for me in middle school. And Clinton was all boys, and that was the best thing that could have happened for me because now when I turned left, it was a hard head. When I turned right, hard head. When I turned around, hard head. That was the best thing going. And from there, the rest is history. Not having the opportunity to play high school ball. I know what it's like to be cut 3 straight years, knowing I was good enough because I kept working on my craft. But playing recreation ball is when I really developed the confidence and understanding that I could really play this game if given an opportunity.
All right, so hold on. Look, before we speed through the high school part. So you would say that you basically stumbled on the game of basketball yourself, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Following my big brother, going to his games when we were living in Harlem. I was watching him, and I'm going to the games so I can get out the house. Mm-hmm. Remember, I'm growing up in a tough community in Harlem. My big brother would go hold his bags, go to the baseball games, carry his bat, and that's how I basically got going.
Okay.